The remit of the team is to prevent unnecessary admissions to hospitals and to support discharges and to prevent people from getting admitted onto wards with a more of a fast turnaround on the EFU ward that we support. EFU is the elderly frailty unit in YYF. Myself and another case manager attend regular meetings Monday to Friday in the MDT meetings with the hospital staff, with the doctors and nurses and bed managers on board, and discuss beds 1 to 10 that we support, and if there's any social needs identified of people they want us to speak to regarding discharge home or find out a bit more information, they would refer on to us. We would go and have a conversation with them on the wards to find out a bit more about themselves, have the what matters conversation, and to find out if they have got the support at home and what is important to them. And we can either put in like some reablement support if needed, or we do a discharge to assess visit where we'd arrange to follow up within 24 hours if possible. If it's a weekend, then we would make sure that they had support at home first, but it's usually within 24 hours we'd go out and do a visit at home, just check that they're managing okay, see if they're okay with equipment that they got, or if they need any equipment we can discuss that, and perhaps advise on more equipment to purchase, as well as if they are not coping, we can look at putting in some reablement support to do a proper assessment. Margaret was on the ward in Astrid Hospital, and she came out of the ward MDT meeting that I attended, and I was asked to have a chat with her because there was some concerns as how she would manage at home, and they thought she would possibly need some reablement support because she lived on her own. They was a bit concerned that she'd be able to manage after being in hospital. So I went and had a chat with her in her room. We had a lovely conversation. We could see her farm that she lives in from her window. She was pointing out, and she couldn't wait to get home. So we had a lovely conversation, and she obviously told me what mattered to her was going back home, and she had good support from a private carer who was a friend of hers who she employed to help her with her personal care. She had a supportive family, but they lived away, so they was a bit apprehensive about her going home, and her son had arranged to come down on the Friday and was going to stay with her for a couple of days, because it was decided between Margaret and myself that I would do a discharge to assess visit. She didn't feel that she needed formal support, but really liked the thought of someone going and checking on her just to make sure that everything was as it needed to be for her to manage at home. So because it was a Friday discharge, I checked with the son, and he did clarify, not I didn't obviously believe Margaret, just to make sure that he was happy to support over the weekend while I went on the Monday then and arranged a meeting there. We had a visit on the Monday afternoon. Son met me at Margaret's house and showed me around everywhere. Myself and Margaret had a lovely chat. She told me she'd been managing fine since she'd been discharged home. Her carer had took up where they left off really with the arrangement, and she was in the next day to support her. She had all the aids and adaptations that she required. She was more than happy to be back in her own environment, and grateful for the support with our service, just checking in on her and making sure that she was okay. Since Margaret came home, she's been managing really well. She hasn't had any more admissions into hospital. I've checked in on her. I did give a phone call at the end of that week to make sure that everything was okay before I discharged her off my caseload. She was managing fine. She's independent, other than the bit of support she has from her friend with the personal care. She does her own baking. She manages really well.
Margaret, thank you for having us here in your home.
Just nice to see you.
Thank you. We just interested in hearing your story about what happened when you went to the hospital fairly recently. Can you just tell us
Yes,
what happened to
indeed.
get you there?
I had been sick in the night. I didn't think it was anything, thought it was something I'd eaten. Judith, my carer, came in the morning and I was sitting on the bed trying to get dressed, and she says I didn't know her. And I felt a bit odd. So she phoned for district nurse to come. Then the next minute I woke up and found my two sons standing at the end of the bed smiling. And I thought, well, that's very nice, but what are you doing here? And then I was taken to a ward at the other side of the hospital, which meant I could see my own house, and that was a great comfort. I think most people, whatever age, need a sort of timetable, but I was getting none. The doctor was behind me, and it's hard to speak with people behind you, and I requested him to come round, and he said, I'm examining you. Well, I said, well, when you finish, please come so I can talk to you. And he decided I was to go the next day. Drips out, everything. And I refused. And I refused because I said, okay, I'm okay to walk, but I'm not right in my head. I need to get my head right because I have been cared for. I'm going home. I shall only have a morning carer first bit of the day, and then I must learn to live on my own again. And my family cannot be with me. I have two sons who live a great distance away. They will come, of course, but I don't want to interrupt their lives beyond a certain point. And so he said to me in the end, are you prepared to go tomorrow? And I said yes. So he said, okay, I'll get the ambulance. And then I was able to tell my son, the nearest one, that I was going, and he said, I'll come to be with you when you come to the house. And then you came to see me to see whether all was well, and I'm doing very good.
Margaret, do you remember me coming to speak to you on the ward? And we had
Yes,
a conversation and you was
Indeed,
showing me the house from the window.
certainly,
Yeah.
I do, yes. I couldn't fault any of the care I had after falling sick, which I think turned out to be a bladder infection or something, which you don't get any warning for. And you have a bit of a memory problem, I believe, that you don't quite know who you are or what you're doing. But
So can I just ask you sort of what Leanne did and what we talked about, because you're saying about how your home is quite well set up already and you've got quite a good support mechanism. So Leanne talked to you about that, is that right? You've got
yes.
family, friends and the things you've got set up here?
Yes, friends in the village are wonderful. One particular friend with a dog that comes daily and walks the dog in the garden. And my other friend just over the wall, she comes if I'm in any problem of any kind.
Does Judith come daily?
Judith comes daily. She hasn't been this weekend because my granddaughter, who is a vet, and it can't be much different, can it? She and my great-grandson came with the sheepdog, Maury. No, I'm very, very lucky. You would think it might be isolated, but it isn't at all.
Brilliant.
And, well, no, it isn't. I have help I can call.
When you were talking about coming home from hospital, and obviously you had some little bit of anxiety, as you say, making that transition back, how helpful was Leanne coming in, having a chat to you and chatting
Very
out with
helpful.
the phone call.
And I know that I could ask questions, and if something was obviously adrift, she would see to it. And she had exactly the right attitude for me. I don't know whether a lot of people need coaching the whole time, but she was so helpful and caring, and yet didn't push me, because I think living alone, you have to try to keep a certain degree of independence. And I run my life on a system of challenge or nonsense. Now, when I have the fire lit, I haven't lit it lately, well, did I need to in this weather? But carrying the coal was obviously a nonsense. But the cooking and the odd time sweeping the floor and small things are a challenge, which I'm happy to. I think this is important, because although when you're older your standards obviously fall as to how clean the floor might be, I still very important to me to do the washing properly and wash myself properly. I have help in the shower because, well, showers are places where people do silly things, something. And my carer has no patience for what she would deem silly, especially in the garden. I confine the gardening. I can't go up the steps into the top garden, to growing things in boxes. I've got potatoes in bags. I've got broad beans out there, French beans, strawberries, sweet peas, and mint and easy things. I can't go down into, I don't go down into the yard because it's quite a pull to come back up with the trolley, and that would be deemed by my family and Judith as a nonsense. I would to Liam, because she's professionally interested in knowing the truth, and I wouldn't be saying I'm fine, but I often say I'm fine to people who know me a little bit, because I don't want them sorry for me. The clever way of being sorry for people, I think, is doing something for them that perhaps they haven't done, and haven't even seen they haven't done it. But to say, oh, I'm so worried about you, I can't bear you here on your road, is rubbish.
You could explain sort of why this approach, you find this approach so successful in your team?
Well, what we found previously, before we started that, the discharge to assess, was that people would, on the ward, staff would identify that somebody may need some social care support, but never had a conversation with them about it, and just made a referral over to the team to say that maybe a package of care was needed. So obviously that would go into the referral system, and by the time we would take to respond to that, it might be a day or so, and in the meantime that person was very often moved on to out of the short stay unit and onto a ward. And what we would find is once they got onto a ward, then they would have to have an OT assessment, maybe a physio assessment, and then obviously our assessment by a social worker here, and that would delay a person's discharge from hospital. So we had a look at some of these people and realised that from tracking back that a lot of them ended up with nothing anyway. So why didn't we try something at that front door at the short stay unit? So we tried putting the case managers there, to go, and as soon as those people are identified at the ward round, they go and they have that what matters conversations with someone, and with the view of we can take them home and assess them at home, where they can recover better at home really. And then if they do need ongoing support, we can put that in, and if they don't, we can let them be to get on with their lives really. So and we find that really successful, and we've embedded that into our practice now. So yeah, for us it works really. For those people out there, it seems to work as well.